Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another review, and I can hardly believe it's already April, which means it is Season 2 time for The Witch from Mercury, which means it's way past due for me to take a look at this right here. This, of course, is the high-grade Gundam Aerial Rebuild. This is from Season 1. I'm hoping we're going to see something absolutely ridiculous as an upgrade in Season 2, but I have to say, after building this, I love this design even more than I thought I did already, and I'm sure you will too. Anyway, if you do want one of your own, as usual, this video right here was sponsored by those awesome people over at HobbyLink Japan, so if you do want one of your own, link is down there in the description. Now let's check it out. So jumping right on into the aesthetics, and I knew the rebuild of Aerial right here was quite different to the original version of Aerial, but until I built this kit, I didn't actually realize by how much. I thought it was just a backpack, a bit of blue, some new shoulders, and that was it. But I was completely wrong, so let's jump right on into comparison. Alright, so comparison time. We've got the standard Aerial right here on the left, we've got the rebuild here on the right, and I have whipped off the backpack just for a little bit of a more direct comparison between the two. In that regard, I'm going to lose this one as well. I will also mention my version of the standard Aerial here does have decals on it, which I did throw on while I was building it, so if you check out the full review of that, you can see that. Now, this is where I'm just going to get a mild complaint in a little bit here, and that is the fact that these back here come out after the release of the actual high grades. And right here, we do have Gundam Aerial specific decals. Now these are for the standard Aerial right there on the left, so if you wanted you could use these, or what I did was use any other decals. But it is a little bit of a disappointment that they don't come out on release day. Why? And that right there is why this one right here does not have any decals, because I'm going to be waiting till those ones are released. But anyway, as for the comparison, the standard Aerial always on the left, the rebuild on the right. So when it comes to the heads between the two, a lot has changed. When it comes to the V-fin right in the center of the forehead, we now have a double V-fin as opposed to the standard single one we had on the normal Aerial. The antenna round back were really long on the standard Aerial. On the rebuild, they've been shortened quite a bit. The red segment in the center, the crest, has a little bit more detail. On the new rebuild, we've got a grey stripe down the top of the head, which is quite a bit of difference, and the overall length of the head on the Aerial Rebuild is a whole lot longer. Also, there's one thing I've noticed and I can't get past. That is that single slit Gundam mouth piece. I don't even know what to call it. You know how in a normal Gundam you got that double little slit? That's very iconic on the face of every Gundam since the RX 78-2. Some don't have it like the Exia. Well, on this kit we've got the one. On the normal version of Aerial there was none at all. It was just a very detailed face plate. Well, that little bit of a notch kind of thing right there, I can't unsee that as a mouth, as a very disgruntled, angry Gundam face mouth. And now I can only see a head. I can't see a Gundam head anymore. I can only see like a kind of cute, mouthed character head thing. So next up now, taking a look at the torso, and this has changed quite a bit, actually a lot more than I ever imagined. When it comes to the build, the only thing that really feels a lot different to me is the fact that the shell units, these right here in the chest, they come on the runner again molded exactly like this, which is fantastic. You do have the options of stickers and clear pieces too, but speaking of which, down below this section here is sticker and clear piece. It's not pre-molded, only the upper part. This is a larger shell unit, of course, than we would have seen in the standard Aerial. But a lot of Aerial right here seems to catch the light a little bit better than this guy. It might just be the colors, the shades, or the top coat on it maybe, but it's a much brighter looking mobile suit than the rebuild right here. Now this point right here is completely not really all that important, but I have to mention it. The face that is in the chest of the Aerial, it's not actually a face, it's not a gunman from Gurren Lagann after all, but I prefer this one. It's really edgy, kind of, I don't know, Digimon-y or Metabotsy or something along those sort of lines. This right here just looks plain old goofy. It's like a big smile and two green eyes. Also, the vent segments are green instead of the kind of reddy color that we had on this one right here. I will also mention when it does come to the stickers, there isn't a choice here. The shoulder units this time on the rebuild are a lot boxier. They are in blue. We do have a sticker included for that little segment there with the green on it. And we do have this slot included as well for using with the bit on form, the bit staves. completely different in shape and, like I mentioned, boxier compared to the overall more curvy standard aerial. When it comes to the rest of the arms on here, there's a lot of differences, surprisingly. The only thing that seems to actually remain pretty much the same is the inner structure, or the inner frame if you'd call it that, in the upper arm, which is allowing the little bit of grey through. On the original aerial right here, it is pretty much the same, but the upper arm armor is different, as you can see. There is the rebuild with that kind of semicircular part up top, a little less eye candy than the standard aerial yet again. And the forearms are a lot more boxier, if not a little bit more standard Gundam-y than what we would have seen with the OG aerial. We've got that little slot in the back, which does diverge quite a bit from what we saw with the standard aerial, which would have had a circular 3mm peg hole, and a lot more curvature and a little bit more grey poking out than we'll see on the rebuild. Next up then, here we've got the waist unit. A lot more block here once again, a lot of square parts. We've got a nice little bit of red detailing in a V shape at the upper segment there, but a lot less overall detail and curvature than we would have seen on the front skirting of this standard aerial on the left. The side skirting armor here is a little bit blockier on the aerial. If you get in a little bit closer to the waist unit right there, you'll see that there's white on there instead of red. And around on the back, or the rear skirting, there isn't really any skirting, but the back of the waist unit, this is a whole lot different too, with a nice new grey segment poking through from the inner frame, but a lot more monotone when it comes to the colour. Lastly then, moving down to the legs, and once again the trend is continuing here with more angles and more of a geometric shape as opposed to the curvature we would have seen with the standard aerial. Now, for the most part, everything is kind of similar. The vents are where the vents would have been. We're seeing some grey coming through in the knee of the aerial rebuild, which looks really nice. But there's one thing that to me breaks my heart about the change here, and that is this. The standard aerial had this really nice little clear part right here, just popping through. This attachment point on the hip is actually made of a smoky grey plastic. That's really nice to look at. What we've got with the rebuild is just a standard old hole. That's a downgrade. Next up then, we've got the feet. When it came to the original aerial, these were very unique. They're big in the back, rounded in the front armor, and the front of the feet is long and pointy with two pointy toe-like outcrops. Now when it comes to the rebuild, this is getting a little bit more standard when it comes to a Gundam. That is very squared, very geometric. The only difference is it is in blue. Both of which look great though, and both of which are missing the correct color for the venting round back, which is meant to be in grey, no stickers included. So the biggest difference without a single doubt is the backpack. The standard aerial comes with this right here, which is just a small backpack with a nice little shell unit in it. And what we get then with the rebuild is a much larger backpack that is capable of space flight. This does not have a nice little shell unit in it, but besides that, it's got a lot going on. We'll take a deeper dive into that a little bit later on. Now, that right there is it for the aesthetics and for the full comparison, and the only real comment I have on this is, as it's going along, I assume we're going to have more steps in the evolution of the Gundam Aerial. It seems like we're getting a lot more geometric squared off parts, and it almost seems like it might be stepping towards a standard Gundam in a sort of way. We've got one slot in the mouth. Will we have a rebuild or a full upgrade with the two Gundam slots? Maybe a little bit more of a typical geometric Gundam look. I am very curious to see where it goes. But I will mention, this new design is absolutely and utterly mind-blowingly cool, but I can't help feel like we've lost some of the charm that we had with the original Gundam Aerial, with all of its curves, unique color scheme, and really bug-like head. I guess in a way, it's almost coinciding with a more serious note as the show evolves. Well, hopefully episode 1 will be out by the time this comes out, and hopefully that isn't a completely different tone, making that statement completely invalid. Anyway, onto the accessories. So now jumping into the accessories, and here's everything that comes inside of the box with the high-grade aerial rebuild. Very similar to what we would have seen with the standard aerial. This is an overview of what came with the aerial right here, and this is what we get here. So the only real difference is, we do not get a close quarters effect part for using with the beam rifle. So what we do get in here is the pair of beam rifles, the escutcheon, which is a shield made out of bit staves, the beam rifle, and the parts for expanding this into the gunned bit rifle. Now let's check everything out one at a time. So first up, taking a look at the hands, and all we've got included in here is the standard set of holding hands. That's these ones right here. Now this is definitely a little bit of a disappointment. Once again, when we got the standard version of Aerial, this had only these hands too, but this pair of widespread open hands right here did come separately sold with the Mira Soul Flight unit. Now the Mira Soul Flight unit has been replaced by the particular backpack we have on this rebuild version of Aerial, so it wouldn't really make much sense right now to buy that with this kit, so it would have been nice to just see these included. You can use them, of course, with the rebuild of Aerial, but it would have been nice, so nice, to have them included. Up next in here, and I guess an accessory in its own right, is the flight unit round back. This looks absolutely fantastic and really gels together this new Aerial design. It makes it look extremely dynamic and over the top in that winged Japanese mecha kind of way. What it says inside the instructions or the manual about this is optional proprietary equipment added to the mobile suit's back. The unit vastly improves Aerial's ability to gyrate during flight through the use of expanding rotatable wings. So when it comes to the articulation and features on this backpack, this is extremely impressive. These can move up and down at this point. This is a C-clip, so it can detach quite easily when you're actually moving this thing around, so be careful with that. Some peg rotation right here, some more right here. These guys down here, they're mainly just a little bit of rotation like so. And definitely the coolest aspect here are these flip out segments. You can grab onto these little standout parts like this, and they'll just flip out just like so, adding a nice splash color right onto the wings like that. These are really expressive, look awesome in some poses. There are some poses just so you can see what it looks like, and I have to say, definitely an impressive flight pack. Too bad about not including some expressive hands, because these look great with it. So next up in here, we've got the pair of beam sabers. Just like we would have seen with the standard version of the Aerial, these have the flat beams in that kind of Age or 00 style, so they just pop on into the hands just like so. You can go either or. You can go regular grip or you can go reverse grip if you want to. They just slide on in, simple as. Once again, these are in blue like we would have seen with the standard Aerial. There is the debate about whether they should be blue or green, but that's what they look like in the hands. They do the job and look fantastic. When these are not in use, as usual, you can just pop them out of the hands, remove the beam from the saber handle, and these handles can be stored up in the backpack in that typical way we've seen all the way back since the RX-78-2, and they hold down good and tight. So next up in here, we've got the beam rifle, which is one nice chunky beam rifle. The only sticker on this is for the green sight in the sight section up top, and this thing is ridiculously modular looking. We've got 3mm holes on the sides, and we've got a whole bunch of slots in an almost 30-minute mission kind of way. Now this is a weapon with a lot of cool features. Of course, you can swap this out for the extended aspect for the bit on form. Like I mentioned, we do have the 3mm holes, the slots all over the place. The sight can pop off simply, making it look like we might have some kind of expansions for later on, probably to do with the bit on form. I did miss there is 2 more of those sight stickers on the sides there, but this is a very nice looking rifle. So to attach this into the hand, you do have to remove the back panel from the hand so you can attach this in. It goes in seamlessly, attaches on very well, and this version of the Aerial can support this with absolutely no issues. There it is in a pose, and this is one massive over-the-top looking beam rifle, and I absolutely adore it. So the last the equipment that we have in here is the escutcheon. Once again, this is made up of a whole bunch of bit staves. It does have a similar attachment point around back to hold them all together, and we might as well check out what this is like as a shield first off. So like we've already seen throughout this review so far, the attachment point on this side of Aerial Rebuild's arm is a slot, not a 3mm hole, so it means this shield is not directly comparable, or should I say compatible, with the standard Aerial, and that pops on just like so. So once again, just like the standard Aerial, this is a shield that did not go unscathed when it comes to stickers. So right here, these are some white stickers on the tips of these gray segments that need to be attached on, and we do have some white stickers up on the end right here on these particular panels. They do blend in quite well. You can see from the side that they are stickers because they do not go all the way around the piece, but for the most part, definitely not so bad. Of course, that green segment in the middle there, that's a sticker too. So just like we would have seen with the standard version of the Aerial, this escutcheon can break down to a whole bunch of individual elements, all of which are the bit staves, as well as a little bit of an adapter to hold them together as the shield. Now just once again like Aerial, you're able to pose these with the sold separately action base for holding onto them. I don't have one, so this is what it looks like in the instructions, and you can also use them to replicate both of the bit-on forms. The first one is the bit-on rifle, and I totally forgot about the fact that this rifle has a long-range form. So in order to do the long-range form of this particular rifle, you just swing out this little section under the handle, add on the extended long barrel, so it's a little bit of a parts formation, pop off this side parts here, which are the folded up handles, and then you attach on the folded or folded out handles, just like so. To make the gun bit rifle, you just build onto this long range form. You attach on pretty much actually every single one of the bit staves onto it. This goes from a fairly large weapon to an absolutely massive, ridiculous weapon. To attach this onto the Aerial Rebuild, it attaches into both hands in a kind of pulled back, bent elbow position, and then the extended handle props onto the crotch, and the upper section of the weapon onto the chest of the Aerial. This holds on perfectly and looks absolutely stupendous. It is huge, awesome, and looks ridiculous. This is one hell of a weapon. Now, one thing I will mention about this weapon is these little segments here, this slot and the slot up top here, are along the seam of where the weapon attaches together. So when you're moving it around quite a bit, the seam can open up a little bit, and these particular parts can end up getting a little loose and falling off, especially the one on the bottom, I find. So be careful with that, and you might as well cement the two halves of the weapon together and make your life a whole lot easier. Well, we do have one more bit on form, the actual bit on form, but before I do that, I will mention that when this weapon is not in use, the beam rifle, just take off all of the stuff, reduce it back to its original format, and this can then slot right into the center of the backpack like so for storage. This is a nice tight attachment, and it looks fantastic to boot. Very, very nice. So yeah, just like we would have seen with the standard version of the Aerial, to replicate this bit-on form, you attach the bit staves to multiple parts of the mobile suit's body. That is, up on the shoulders with the big white ones. We've got asymmetrical ones on the forearms, which really do add some shielded niceness to it. We've got ones that'll pop onto the side skirting armor, adding some blue where there was no blue before, and same goes for around back with this panel that attaches onto the butt flap, adding a nice little splash of color too. Finally then, the way these big panels attach is really cool compared to the simple way we would have seen on the standard Aerial. They plug into the lower thruster sections on the backpack, and they add some nice wing-like bulk. This in total, what can I say? This has improved the design in my opinion so much. It's now one bulky, awesome looking mobile suit with a nice pattern of color with huge, massive wings. This Aerial looks incredible. So finally now moving on to the articulation, and as we've seen with this line so far, this is a rock solid kit that won't drop anything an inch. Not even a centimeter, not even a millimeter. The only thing that kind of can pop off every now and then is the C-clips around the wings here. Besides that, it doesn't ever fall apart. Now, I will mention this is a completely brand new kit compared to the standard Aerial right here, which I stole the hands off. For the most part, the design is very, very similar, but none of the runners are shared throughout the two, not even the inner frame parts. Digitally, they may have actually transplanted some parts of this guy onto this guy's runners, but as far as the kit is concerned, it is completely new. So throwing into the usual test pose to check all of the articulation all at once, this absolutely destroys it, just like we would have seen with the Aerial before. Of course, this kit is missing the upper leg swivel that we would have seen in the Gundam Rubris, but that really isn't that big of an issue. Even though this has absolutely massive wings too, it's quite well balanced, so you can always get it balanced even in standing and crouching poses, and overall this thing is absolutely fantastic and looks mesmerizing in every single pose. I have to say, an absolute posing machine right here. So anyway, that right there is it for the review, and this, just like with the standard version of the Aerial, is Platinum tier. They are both very fantastic kits, and essentially you're paying about $3 or $4 more for this kit. This is a $13 or €12 kit right here retail in Japan, and you're essentially just paying that little bit more for the backpack, but otherwise that main Gundam value is totally here. Aesthetically, this looks fantastic. It's been changed a lot more from the standard Aerial than I ever realized, but that is the glory of building model kits. You get a lot more intimate with the designs of the mobile suits. The colors look great, the bit-on form is fantastic, the shell unit has been expanded, and overall just looks so cool. When it comes to the accessories, it's once again the same sword, board, and beam rifle that we usually get with a Gundam kit, but they all have so many features. The beam sabers are standard enough, the beam rifle and the escutcheon have multiple forms, which is so much fun, but you do have to go out and buy hands, and the stand separately. Finally then, when it does come to the articulation, this is a rock solid build and looks fantastic in every pose and is a joy to pose. It always looks and feels fantastic, and I highly recommend it. Unmissable. If you do want one of your own, I got mine through Hobby Link Japan, link in the description. As usual with Gunpla right now, you do need to pre-order in advance, so always keep your eyes open for Witch from Mercury pre-orders. They're always worth it, as usual. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to come back for more Gunpla reviews, and I'll see you next time.